he'll reciprocate. As we surrender unto him, he reciprocates. If we love him, he loves us, but because we've turned away from him, so we can't appreciate that love. Actually, that's our pleasure in the material world. That's why we say this is like a perverted reflection. In the material world, we get pleasure out of acting in such a way that deprives the Lord of the ability to enjoy us. His rightful position is to enjoy us. He is the Purusha, we are Prakriti. But we want to take the position of the enjoyer, and we get some perverted pleasure out of depriving him of his position as the enjoyer. He's meant to enjoy us, but we said, no, you're not going to enjoy me. And we get some pleasure out of it, defying him, defying God. This is our disease. So we want to come again to the point of cooperating with him instead of defying him. Then we have to change our defiant nature, and that's done by glorifying him. So it's a practice. In the beginning it may seem troublesome. Well, why I have to always chant Hare Krishna? Why I have to always remember Krishna? What about me? What's my... Because we're habituated to putting ourselves in the center since time immemorial. But now we're being asked to put Krishna in the center, so there's some struggle. The mind won't agree. It requires some training. Because it's a radical change. Every living entity in the material world, everyone we met today, everyone on the street, the kids out there, I can hear their voices. They're all thinking how I can enjoy. But that's not their position. Krishna is the enjoyer. And we should always be trying to facilitate his enjoyment. Then we'll find that we're happy. Prabhupada gives the example of the hand. If it tries to take the food directly, it won't get any nourishment from that. But if it brings it to the mouth, then it gets it. Because the mouth, the stomach, they're the enjoyer of the food. So this is our position. We think that we can enjoy separately from the Lord sense gratification if we maneuver everything in such a way, we have plenty of money, plenty of facility for enjoying our senses. Specifically, sex life is the most prominent pleasure. So, the whole world is moving on this principle. So now, we're learning devotional service means we have to put ourselves in a position that Krishna can enjoy us. And sometimes we may make a mistake. And then we suffer, but then our progress is slowed down or some way impeded. Prabhupada was once asked, well, what is the biggest obstacle in our path of devotion? He said, you are. You are yourself. There's no superior is trying to stop our devotion. They're happy to have us advance in devotional service. There's no competition as such. The general word of competition is we want the competitor to stumble or not to, so that we can sell our goods or whatever. We can have a clear field for enjoying, because material life is like that. There's always struggle for existence and so on. But in the spiritual world, it's not like that. So from the spiritual point of view, if somebody is making progress, we're happy that they're making progress. So the superiors then are not checking us. And inferiors, how can they check us? They may try, but like Prahlad Maharaj, there was so much attempt to check his devotional service from his father, from the ministers, from his teachers. They were all very powerful living entities, and they all tried in various ways to check his devotion, but they couldn't stop it because it was coming from another platform, from the spiritual platform. And that platform, the only thing required is our desire, our sincere anxiety to please the Lord. Like Mother Yasoda. She's in anxiety about Krishna. But that's her samadhi. That's a ecstasy. Ordinary mothers in anxiety about their child. But that is not the same. Because Mother Yasoda is meditating on Krishna. So if we put Krishna in the center, we can be anxious for Krishna. We can be anxious to spread the Krishna conscious movement. Assist Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was anxious about it. Anxious means he was taxing his brain. He was struggling. He was extending himself, taking risks for spreading Krishna consciousness. Coming on a boat, old man, heart attack, no money. But why was he taking all that trouble? Because his spiritual master wanted him to. Krishna wants us to. Krishna says, no one is more dear to me. So this 12th chapter, Krishna talks about being dear to me, what we can do to be dear to Krishna. But in the end of the 18th chapter, Krishna says, no one is more dear to me than one who explains the subject to the innocent people. So we should look for innocent people. Innocent, what Prabhupada was asked, what is innocent? Because we are supposed to preach to the innocent, avoid the atheists, make friends with the devotees, and worship the Lord. So who is the innocent? Prabhupada said, those who are willing to hear. Then we should find who is willing to hear. And then we can explain the subject. Who is willing to hear the kirtan. Then we can go on chanting. Lord Chaitanya used to chant like this for 4 hours every night in Jagannath Puri. You know, we chanted a little bit, how much? 45 minutes, an hour? And we think, wow, that was a long chanting. But Lord Chaitanya was chanting for 4 hours, falling down, rolling over, tears from the eyes, perspiring, saliva coming from his mouth, because he was entranced and lost. So this is the process. The chanting especially is recommended for getting the dirty things out of our heart. And then we invite others also to take part in this chanting. But the qualification has to be there. We have to be a little humble. And then Chunadapi Sunichaya Tayodapi Sahishnuna Amanina Amani Kirtanaya Sara. We can go on chanting. Even in our sleep we can go on chanting. Even in our dreams. We're on the toilet. Go on remembering the name of the Lord. Or chanting the name of the Lord. Nothing can check us if we have that desire. So the whole thing is based on our desire. By desire we've come to the material world. We think we have an advantage here. We can exploit the resources for our advantage and get some profit, get some better position. Everybody's trying to get aggrandize their position, but it's always futile. We're always defeated by the time element. Krishna says, I am the time. So, why not make a sincere effort to turn to the Lord? So here, I'll just read a few verses, give you an idea what Krishna, who is dear to him. For one who is not envious, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor, is free from false ego, who is equal in happiness, in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed in me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Next verse. That was 14. 15. He for whom no one is put into difficulty, who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equiposed in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, is very dear to me. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without care, free from all pains and not striving for some result, is very dear to me. One who neither rejoices nor grieves, who neither laments nor desires, who renounces both auspicious and inauspicious things. Such a devotee is very dear to me. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equiposed in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who does not care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Those who follow this imperishable science of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me. Report. In this chapter, from verse 2 through the end, from Mai Aveshya Mano Yeyam, fixing the mind on me, to Ye to Dharman Amritam, Idam, this religion is of eternal engagement. The Supreme Lord has explained the process of transcendental service for approaching Him. Such processes are very dear to the Lord, and He accepts the person engaged in them. The question of who is better, who is engaged in the path of impersonal Brahman, or one who is engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was raised by Arjuna. And the Lord replied to him so explicitly that there is no doubt that devotional service to the Personality of Godhead is the best of all processes of spiritual realization. In other words, in this chapter it is decided that through good association one develops attachment for pure devotional service and thereby accepts a bona fide spiritual master, and from him begins to hear and chant and observe the regular principles of devotional service with faith, attachment, and devotion, and thus becomes engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This path is recommended in this chapter. Therefore, there is no doubt that devotional service is the only absolute path for self-realization, for the attainment of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Absolute Truth is described in this chapter. As described in this chapter, is recommended only up to the time one surrenders himself for self-realization. In other words, as long as one does not have the chance to associate with the pure devotee, the impersonal conception may be beneficial. In the impersonal conception of the Absolute Truth, one works without fruitive results, meditates and cultivates knowledge to understand spirited matter. This is necessary as long as one is not in the association of a pure devotee. Fortunately, if one develops directly a desire to engage in Krishna consciousness and pure devotional service, he does not need to undergo a step-by-step improvement in spiritual realization. Devotional service, as described in the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, is more congenial. One need not bother about materials to keep body and soul together, because by the grace of the Lord, everything is carried out automatically. Mudyanatvidandasya janaganasalakayam chaksusmritam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya Manavistam Shapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Maya Dadatu Sapadantikam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Radha Shivasana Guru Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So any questions? The processes of the philosophy, the understanding is simple enough, but the application is difficult because of our habit. We're in the habit of acting whimsically by, under the influence of desire and anger, we do things that are not in harmony with God's plan. And so we create disturbance for ourselves, for others, and then we suffer. Reaction comes. Sometimes it's compared to like the fan. Put the fan, and the fan is turning. If we pull the plug, the fan stops. But if we put it starts to slow down. If we put the plug back in, then again it starts up. So this we may do sometimes, but then we should recognize our defect. We should be honest about our mistakes, and and try to rectify them and try not to make them again. But the habit is so strong. Probably give the example of the tail of a dog. If we straighten it out again, it becomes crooked. So something like that. We're working with difficult circumstances. We're in the Kali Yuga. We're not coming from a very good family. Nobody was performing the Govardhan Sanskara when we were conceived. We're mostly meat eaters and women hunters, so we have to struggle against that degradation or that lower nature. So sometimes we may lose, like a baby learning how to walk. They fall down, but then again get up. In other words, there's no use in being overly guilty, feeling overly guilty. We should feel guilty. We should repent, and then we should again try to come to the right standard. Otherwise, if we just depreciate ourselves, then that also won't be pleasing to the Lord. In other words, we need to improve, but we shouldn't be masochistic. You know that word? Masochistic. Masochistic means they take pleasure in berating themselves. And sadistic, they take pleasure in causing trouble to others. So this is the duality of the material world. Everyone is either sadistic or masochistic. Or Bhaktisiddhanta says cheaters or being cheated. Well, I was once on Sankirtan years ago, and I met some girl who was a follower of Guru Maharaj, or some guru, I don't know if he's still around or what, but anyway, he had a following in the 70s. And I said to her this quote, that our Param Guru had said that the material world means there's always cheaters or the cheated. And she said, immediately kind of emotionally, oh, I'd much rather be cheated. So that's the disease, we think somehow it's noble to be cheated. But this is not, we should transcend. We should neither be cheaters nor cheated. And that is possible. We think it's impossible, therefore we think, oh, it's more noble, let somebody cheat me, then it'll be there. I'll feel superior because I never cheated anybody. But I allow others to cheat me, that's not doing them a favor. It's not helping them. If you become a victim, repeatedly you have a desire to be victimized. Like women sometimes get into that. They allow the men to abuse them. And then the men, the husband or whoever, may think, well, she likes it, so it doesn't cure him. So therefore, the intelligent people advise, no, you should separate. If you have an abusive spouse, you should separate. Don't tolerate. Don't feel that it's your fault. So we have to learn these things because we're conditioned for such a long time in this duality. So you have to, go forward practically, not just lament. Brahmabhuta prasanatma nasachatina kanchati. We neither hanker nor lament. We could have done things better. We could improve, but we have now. So now we should try to remember Krishna. Now we should try to act in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. Atata Brahma Jigyasya. Now, in this human form of life, we should become serious about being Krishna conscious and trying to make Krishna happy. Not that we just dwell on whatever sinful life we may have committed and feel sorry for our victims and so on, whatever. No, we should just make a resolve not to again fall victim to our lower nature and struggle against that. If If we give up the struggle, then of course there's no hope. But as long as we're struggling, it's good. It's a good struggle. Otherwise, everybody has to struggle. Just to survive, you have to struggle. Get a job and so on. To get up every morning, go to work, you don't feel like doing it. Don't think these people are not struggling. Everybody's struggling. But our struggle is for the highest goal, the highest perfection. So, don't be discouraged. Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you fall victim of your own nature. But just go on with this process. And then gradually you'll improve. It may take 10 lifetimes. But it's something substantial. Whereas materialists, they're not making any progress on the spiritual side. They may get very wealthy or whatever, but it's phantasmagoria. It has no substance. It's like spinning your wheels in the snow. The ice is there and you're turning. You're not going anywhere. It looks like you're going someplace, but it's nowhere. But if we do a little bit on the devotional side, then we have some progress. That will remain with us. So when we take it again, then more. Gradually, it'll come to the point that we are fully engaged in the service of the Lord. We're getting a higher taste. We find it very relishable, and we don't give it up. But that will come. Therefore, Rupa Goswami advises 3 things. Well, more, but these 3 are prominent. Patience. We have to be patient. Enthusiastic. And confident that we're on the right path. We shouldn't lose confidence that, oh, maybe I should do something else. No, this is it. You've come to the right place. You should be confident about that. No, there's no higher philosophy, no easier process than chanting Hare Krishna. But we should be confident that we've chosen the right path, and don't let anybody put doubt in us about that. But at the same time, we have to be patient. Okay, any questions?
About this not striving for any result, could you elaborate on that? Krishna's point about one who does not strive for any result.
Needs for personal advantage. No, we can strive for pleasing Krishna. Strive to be better devotees. But that was referring to on our own account. Everybody's striving for some advantage in the material world. That's why we're here. If you read the Forest of Enjoyment in the Bhagavatam 5th Canto, we come here because we think there's an advantage here. We can become the center somehow. We're not happy just to remain a servant. We want to put ourselves in the center. So the material world gives us that illusion, yes. If you're successful, you can be the next movie star that everybody is talking about. Your name will be in light, flashing lights, and when you go to get the Academy Award, all these lights will go you get a picture of you. And so people are after that. Fame, especially, money, beauty. So that kind of striving. Even the striving to be the best devotee. That's also a disease. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says we shouldn't try to be the best devotee, we should be the opposite. A good devotee. A good devotee means he's happy to recognize that he's not the best devotee. And assist those who he can help. Serve them. Sorry?
Yeah. Because Prabhupada was definitely very result-oriented.
Yeah,
for Krishna, of course.
That's right. He was result-oriented to some measure, but at the same time, The real result is if Krishna's pleased, or if he was pleased. Like once in London, I had opportunity, I was giving massage with Srila Prabhupada for some time, and at that time, devotees went to South America. Devotees had never been there. This is 1969. So Prabhupada he got a letter from them, and he was happy. He was sharing with me. Devotees went to, I think it was Argentina, Buenos Aires, or someplace. And, obviously Prabhupada was pleased that a new continent, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, was being established. So, I foolishly said to Prabhupada, so the preaching was successful, Prabhupada? I was thinking like, how many people came, or, like we generally do. But Prabhupada didn't really like that. In other words, he was pleased, so that means it was successful. I should have seen that. Well, Prabhupada was happy about it, he was telling me about it. But that's the success right there. Regardless of how many books they sold and so on. But otherwise, yeah, we do. We know that Prabhupada was happy the books were sold. People are coming forward and so on. But the real thing is, how Krishna is pleased. Just like the South Indian Brahmin, he was illiterate, but he was looking at Bhagavad Gita, we were seeing Krishna and Arjuna, and tears were coming to his heart. So others were laughing at him, but Lord Chaitanya embraced him and said, yes, you have understood Bhagavad Gita. So that's what's pleasing to the Lord. Has to be ascertained. What is pleasing to the Lord? Sometimes it's hard to know. Therefore we require a guru, sadhu, shastra. We can't just rely on the Lord in our heart. The Lord is there in our heart. He's ready to direct us, but we can be misdirected by the mind, by the intuition. We think, oh, intuition is our guide, but intuition can also cheat us. The thief is thinking, he's getting also intuition. This is a good opportunity to steal. Inside is telling him, wow, now you to see that opportunity. Pick someone's pocket. So we need Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. You have a question?
Well, I think the striving for results, we can see we can observe temple communities. Some temple communities, they're very successful, while others, they may be struggling, to get the things going. So, what would you say is the main difference? Like, if something can be said simply about that can be, like, taken note of?
Yeah, there's so many circumstances involved. It's a little hard to make a blanket statement. Sometimes it's where we're preaching. We can think that, or we can understand that these particular people are not very interested in Krishna consciousness. And you might want to go somewhere else, where the people are more conducive, or more open. Or it may be that we can also think that because of my disqualification, I'm not getting the results. But again, don't just beat up on yourself. Then you become discouraged and nobody wins. You become less Krishna conscious, then your preaching is not as effective. So it's a balance, how to see what is the best way that I can use my energy to please Krishna. Therefore, we should consult with our spiritual master. And like with Prabhupada, we could go in front and speak to him and tell him that, well, Srila Prabhupada, I have this ability, and if you can help me think how I can engage this in your service or in service of Krishna. Or Prabhupada could see what is our mentality, and so he would engage us. But it's true, Prabhupada wanted Krishna consciousness spread all over the world. So but But it's a combination of things, why one place is successful, one place is not so successful. And then there's also the sense of our success is that we become Krishna conscious. In other words, it's not just a political movement, we have to spread the movement all over, otherwise we're not successful. No, the real success is that we're becoming Krishna conscious. If we're able to become Krishna conscious, then we're successful. And that's, the example that we set is the best preaching anyway. If we're really Krishna conscious, then others will benefit by our association. What else? What time is it now?
What else is this?
A question, yeah. Mataji?
Yeah. At the end, when Kalki comes and kills all the demons, what happens to the demons? Will they go to Krishna, or what will happen when Kalki kills them?
That's mentioned in the 12th canto, is it?
I don't know.
That, no, we know that anyone that the Lord directly kills, they benefit. Whatever God does is good for everyone. So whether they go to the spiritual world or Brahmajyoti, but because they're being killed at the hand of the Lord, then there's no loss there. They're benefited. And but specifically destination they get, that will depend on some factor, other factors. Anything else? Okay, we'll stop here. Bhagavad Gita Ki.
His Holiness Trivikrama Maharaj.
Jai.